You did everything right. You saved. You planned. You watched the number in your account grow for decades. You even had a date circled on a calendar. And then the morning came. No alarm, no meeting, no inbox demanding your attention. Just the silence and freedom. Total, complete freedom. But somewhere around week 3, something shifted. The silence started to feel less like peace and more like static. You had imagined this for decades. The golf mornings, the slow coffee, the ability to do whatever you want whenever you want. But now that you are actually here, you are not sure what you actually want. And that feeling is more unsettling than any deadline you ever missed. This is not a financial failure. It is not ingratitude. And it is not a sign that something is wrong with you. This is what psychologists call the identity void. And almost nobody talks about it because we spend so much energy preparing for retirement financially that we forget to prepare for it psychologically. Today, I want to explain exactly what is happening inside your mind when the career ends and the self seems to disappear with it. Let us start at the beginning. For most of your adult life, you were given a role, a title, a function, a place to be at a specific time, doing a specific thing for a specific reason. And without realizing it, that role became you. When someone asked who you were, you answered with what you did. I am a nurse. I am an engineer. I am a teacher. I am a manager. Psychologists call this identity foreclosure. It is what happens when a single role becomes so central to your sense of self that you never develop an identity independent of it. You did not do this on purpose. The structure of working life practically demands it. Think about what your career actually gave you. Not just money. It gave you a reason to wake up. It gave you colleagues who knew your name and your history. It gave you a rhythm, a calendar, a sense of forward motion. It gave you a category. When you were working, you knew exactly where you fit in the world, and the world confirmed that every day. Then retirement arrives and all of that disappears in a single morning. The rhythm is gone, the colleagues are gone, the daily confirmation of your identity is gone, and you are left standing in your kitchen at 10 in the morning wondering what to do with your hands. Sociologist Helen Rose Ebaugh spent decades studying what she called role exit. She studied ex-nuns, divorced people, former soldiers, and ex-convicts. People who had built their entire lives around a single defining role and then had to leave it behind. What she found was striking. Every single one of them went through the same psychological process. First came the doubt, the quiet internal question of, is this still who I am? Then came the search, the restless attempt to find a new anchor for the self. And then for many of them came the residual identity, that strange feeling of still reaching for the old role, still introducing yourself by your former job title at parties, still dreaming about the office, still structuring your mornings as if the work was quietly waiting for you. Sound familiar? That is not weakness. That is not failure to move on. That is the mind trying to protect itself from an identity it does not yet have a replacement for. Your brain spent 30, 40, sometimes 50 years building a neural architecture around your work identity. The habits, the routines, the social scripts, the sense of forward motion. Retirement does not erase those pathways overnight. It just removes the destination. And a brain without a destination is a brain in quiet distress. Here is what most retirement advice misses completely. Human beings do not just need purpose. They need what psychologists call structured meaning, meaning that arrives on a schedule, meaning with clear roles, clear goals, and clear feedback. Work, whether you loved it or resented every minute of it, provides all three automatically. You know when you are expected to show up. You know what you are supposed to accomplish. And at the end of the project, the quarter, the fiscal year, you know whether you succeeded. Retirement strips all of that structure away in one morning and leaves you with what feels like infinite freedom. But here is the brutal truth about infinite freedom. It is paralyzing. Psychologist Barry Schwartz called this the paradox of choice. Too many options do not make us happier. They make us more anxious, more doubtful, more frozen. When you had a job, someone else imposed the structure on your time. Now you have to create it yourself, and nobody ever taught you how to do that because nobody thought you would need to. There is also something happening beneath the surface that is even harder to name. For most of your career, you were moving toward something, a promotion, a project completion, a number in a retirement account, progress. Even on the worst days, you were building toward a future version of yourself. Retirement removes the destination, and without a destination, progress becomes invisible. Psychologists call this the loss of temporal scaffolding, the scaffolding being the invisible frame of time that gives each day its meaning. Monday matters because Friday is coming. This month matters because next quarter is coming. This year matters because the goal is getting closer. Remove the goal, remove the quarter, remove the promotion timeline, and suddenly every day feels the same. Not bad, just the same. And sameness, for a brain that spent decades measuring forward motion, starts to feel like stagnation, which starts to feel, slowly and quietly, like something must be wrong with you. Let us talk about the social dimension, because this is the part people are most reluctant to admit out loud. Your work was not just a job, it was a community. And communities have a function that goes far beyond friendship. They give you an audience. They give you people who witness your efforts, your growth, your wins, and your mistakes. Without an audience, achievement becomes invisible. You could run a marathon in your backyard, and if no one saw it, if no one knew something about it, would feel incomplete. This is not vanity. This is among the most fundamental psychological needs humans have. We are social creatures, and social creatures need to be seen. Your colleagues saw you every day. They confirmed your competence. They responded to your ideas. They depended on things only you could provide. And being needed is one of the most powerful sources of self-worth that exists. Retirement quietly removes all of that and leaves you in a house full of comfort, but starving for relevance. Psychologist Erik Erikson called the central conflict of this life stage generativity versus stagnation. Generativity is the human need to create things, to contribute, and to leave something behind, to feel that your presence in the world is making a real difference to someone. When a career ends, many people lose their primary channel for generativity, and without a new channel to replace it, stagnation creeps in. Not the stagnation of a lazy person, but the stagnation of someone with everything they need, who still cannot shake the feeling that they are no longer necessary. Now let us have an honest moment, because sometimes the emptiness after retirement is hiding something else, something that the noise and structure of working life was quietly drowning out for years. For some people, work was not just an identity, it was an escape from a marriage that had grown distant, an escape from friendships that never quite deepened beyond surface level, an escape from questions about mortality, meaning, and legacy that felt too large to face while there were still reports to file and deadlines to meet. Retirement removes the escape hatch, and the questions are still there, louder now. If you find yourself in this place, know that you are not broken. You are simply finally still enough to hear what has been waiting for you for a very long time. So what do you do? How do you rebuild a self that retirement has not destroyed but dismantled? The first thing to understand is that this is not a problem solved by finding hobbies. I need you to hear this clearly. Golf is not the answer. Travel is not the answer. More free time is not the answer. These things can be wonderful, but they do not rebuild an identity. They fill hours. And there is a profound difference between filling hours and filling a self. What you need is what researchers call identity reconstruction, the deliberate, intentional process of building a new self-narrative, a new answer to the question of who you are. This is not about reinventing yourself from scratch. It is about expanding the self you already have beyond the walls of the role that contained it. Because here is what retirement actually is, underneath all the fear. It is the first time in your adult life that you get to decide who you are without a company, a title, or a schedule deciding it for you. That is terrifying. And it is also, if you let it be, one of the most profound opportunities of your entire life. Start by asking a different question. Not what should I do with all this time, but who do I want to be in the world now? Not what, who. Because the doing will follow naturally from the being. If you want to be someone who mentors others, then the doing is finding a young person who needs what only you know. If you want to be someone who creates things, then the doing is picking up the instrument or the paintbrush or the camera that has been waiting. If you want to be someone who builds community, then the doing is starting with one conversation, one neighbor, one gathering at a time. The identity comes first. The activities follow from it. Psychologists also recommend what they call structured novelty, not pure, open-ended freedom, but a calendar with deliberate shape, anchor points in the week, a Tuesday morning that is always for this, a Thursday afternoon that is always for that. Structure does not confine you in retirement. Structure liberates you. Because when the wide open blank of the week is divided into meaningful segments, each segment carries its own weight. Each segment gives the day a reason to exist, and the days start to feel like progress again. There is also something critical about contribution. Research consistently shows that retirees who volunteer, teach, mentor, or serve in some capacity report significantly higher levels of meaning and life satisfaction than those who simply consume experiences. The key word is contribution, not consumption. Travel can become consumption. Grandchildren can become consumption. Leisure, approached passively, is consumption. But the moment you shift from receiving what the world offers to giving something of yourself back to it, the identity void begins to close, because contribution restores what retirement quietly took from you. It restores necessity. It makes you matter again, not to your former employer, but to someone. And that is enough. Let me close with something a little harder to hear. The reason retirement feels empty, even when you planned for it carefully, is not because you did something wrong. It is because we live in a culture that teaches us from childhood to build our entire sense of self around what we produce. From the very beginning, we are asked what we want to be when we grow up, not who we want to be, what. And so we spend our lives becoming what we do. And when the doing stops, we assume the self stops with it. But that is not the truth. The truth is that you were never just your job. You were always something larger than the role that held you, something that existed before your first day of work and exists still in this strange and quietly enormous chapter. Retirement is not the end of the self. It is the first time you have been given enough silence to finally hear who you actually are beneath everything you were trained to produce. That silence is uncomfortable. Let it be uncomfortable, because on the other side of that discomfort is something most people never get to find, an identity that belongs to no company, an identity that cannot be downsized or made redundant, an identity that is finally, completely, irreversibly yours. That is your work now. And it might be the most important work you have ever done. In the next video, we are going to talk about what psychologists call the second chapter blueprint, the framework for designing a post-career identity with the same intention and seriousness you once brought to your professional life. I will see you in the next one.